Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Two Guys Talking Sports. This is our second go at this episode. Had a little technical difficulty yesterday. All that means is we had a practice round. That's all it means.
We did.
College football has finally come to an end, unfortunately. Seems like you wait all year for it to get around. It takes off, train gets rolling, and then all of a sudden it just goes off a cliff and it's done. Yeah,
I'm kind of excited for the 12-team playoff next year, which I thought Monday night's game was a really good game anyways. Like, the way it started, you didn't think it was going to be because, I mean, what everybody thought Michigan was going to do at the beginning of the game, they did. They ran it down Washington's throat. And, I mean, the first half, I believe Michigan had over 200 yards of rushing
209
offense. Yards. But credit to Washington. I mean, they made huge adjustments after that, but unfortunately, the offense couldn't capitalize on the adjustments the defense made. And the mistakes Michigan made, and not really mistakes, but Michigan's inability to score off their defense.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be a game like last year's national championship where Georgia just routed TCU because Michigan jumped out, and I mean they
made it look easy.
They looked like they had an elite offense that you hadn't seen all year. And they jump out at 17-3. Washington's just kind of holding on. They do, get the ball, drive down the field, burn some time up, score that touchdown on a fourth down to make it 17-10. They got a lot of momentum going into half because they got the ball at half. So you're thinking, okay, they got that touchdown. They were able to produce, a good drive, get the momentum, get the ball back. Interception on the first play.
And honestly, outside the two touchdowns in the fourth quarter when it was essentially garbage time, and I think, Washington was just kind of down in the dumps. They just weren't in it. I mean, Michigan only had there was between both teams there was only 6 points scored in the second half up to that point. Yeah,
it was definitely. The score doesn't show how close the game actually was for the majority of the game.
Garbage time.
Because it was like Michigan jumped out big. Washington crawled back, and then they were able to kind of keep it at that 17-10, 20-10 range. Until, like you said,
which is what Michigan likes to do.
Right,
I listened to a couple shows, and immediately after the game on Monday night, and it was to a T the way Michigan loves to play, and they don't care if they win ugly, i.e., if they don't care if they have 150 yards total offense. All they care about at the end of the day is getting the W. And I mean, that's
really,
what it was.
That's all that matters.
J.J. McCarthy didn't have to really do much. I mean, he was 10 of 18 for 140 yards, but the big kicker was they had 303 yards of rushing. And it's crazy, but Washington did do, like we said earlier, Washington did a great job adjusting after that first big wave, where, between Corum and Edwards, I mean, they couldn't stop them.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, of that 300 yards, the 209 came in the first half. And I would say the majority of that came in like the first two drives. I mean, it was almost. That's what I'm saying. When you watched the way that Michigan was running the ball and Washington wasn't doing anything on offense those first few drives, you were like, this is going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I think I saw where Donovan Edwards had 2 rushing attempts for like 87 yards. So, I mean, and there were 2 big runs right there at the beginning of the game. And, I mean, it was kind of second half was kind of a sloppy game because you had Washington receivers dropping the balls. You had Michigan receivers dropping the ball because Michigan had to try to start passing the ball because – I mean, like I said, up until the final 2 touchdowns, Washington was doing a good job stopping the run.
Yeah, and it was, like you said, it was one of those games where Michigan, if they have a lead, their defense is good enough to just hold pat and keep them there. And that's kind of what happened. They didn't have many or any sacks, but they were able to constantly put pressure on Penix to where he was never comfortable. He was sailing passes because he was constantly throwing off his back foot. He was getting hit.
Yeah, he was hurting.
Yeah.
I think they added like extra padding to his right side. And I mean, after the game, he had like his head like covered in towels, but he was just holding his right side. You could tell he's in pain.
After you get hit in the ribs and you're already injured, you could put as much padding as you want. You're still going to feel it every time you get hit. I mean, you got a guy that's probably running at you 19 to 20 miles an hour.
Over 300 pounds.
Yeah, there's only so much padding you can put there. But
I mean, but Michigan did an effective job of making him uncomfortable because even when they weren't pressured, he was thrown off his back foot.
Right.
Even if they weren't close, they were from me to you or further away.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had a wide open guy that was a big crucial fourth down call.
Yeah.
He was wide open and Penix missed the throw because Michigan just did a great job of making him uncomfortable all night.
And it's kind of, you see this a lot with unless you're the elite of the elite. Yeah. And I'm talking about like the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers, pretty much just them. Once you can get to a quarterback at the beginning of the game, that internal clock in their head it tunes up. And even when you're not getting pressure, they're in that mode of I got to get it out. I got to get and then you're just, even when you have the time, you're still throwing off that back foot because you're just thinking, okay, they're coming. I got to get this ball out.
Yeah.
So if you can get that initial pressure and go ahead and speed that clock up, you really don't have to do a whole, you still want to get quarterback pressures, but even when you're not getting there, you've already affected that quarterback.
It's affected his psyche.
Exactly.
And honestly, I was listening to another show. Do you think the way Michigan won the national championship this year, where it was an elite defense, average, above average offense, where you're seeing a lot of these, majority of the teams now, it's all offense, where it's a bad day if they don't score 40 to 50, 60 points a game, where like Michigan just showed the blueprint of, okay, you don't need to have an elite offense in order to win a national championship. When you look at Georgia's their most recent two, they kind of had a little bit of both.
Right.
Where they didn't have, they always had an excellent defense, but offense was good, but it wasn't great.
I think you still want that offense because it's as good as Michigan's defense was. I think it got them. I think it was just a perfect storm for the type of team that they had.
Yeah.
Because Washington's offense is pretty much a singular offense where if Penix isn't doing anything, then they can't do anything.
They're the opposite of Michigan. Michigan loves to run the ball. Washington loves to throw the ball.
If you had a team that could run and pass with an elite offense, that probably would have been a different game. I mean, if you're talking, I think that Georgia's offense was probably more set up to run and pass, maybe against them. But unfortunately, Georgia didn't make it. So.
And Washington's running back, or their starting running back, wasn't 100% healthy.
Right. No.
I think he was in for maybe one or two series at the beginning. He was on the sideline in pain. You could tell, like, they kept pointing at, like, the outside of his foot.
Yeah.
You could tell he wasn't 100%. And, he still ran some, but it really wasn't effective.
Right. Yeah, it's always good to have, they've always said, and this has been the adage for years on years on years, that offense wins games, defense wins championships.
Yeah.
If you don't have a defense, whether it's an elite defense, just a good defense, it's hard to win the big games.
Yeah.
And you see that with Washington. Like, they had a decent defense, but not good enough to stop a average offense in Michigan.
Yeah, and everybody was talking about going in like the running defense for Washington was going to be a big factor, and it showed, especially that the first 1.5 quarters was a problem.
Yeah, that's if you have an elite offense, you still have to have a pretty good defense because you're going to run into a team like Michigan with an elite defense who has just enough offense that if you don't have a good enough defense, they're going to win that game.
Yeah, because, Michigan was making some dang good tackles in open field. Like I said, they did a great job of stopping that offense.
Yeah. Congratulations to Washington for getting there. They deserved it. I think, you can make arguments all you want. They deserve to be there.
Yeah.
Georgia, you didn't win your championship game. It is what it is.
You can argue about who's the best team, but at the end of the day, all that matters is you have to win the games to get there.
Right.
And guess what? You don't reward teams, and it sucks for Florida State because they did what they had to do.
Yeah.
But you don't reward teams that don't win games.
Right.
And sorry, Georgia.
It'll shake out. I think it'll shake out a lot better next year for all of these arguments. There's still going to be the argument because even with the 12 team, you're going to have 13 and 14 that feel like they deserve to be there. But I think that it is going to make it a little bit better with the expanded playoffs.
Because what's going to be funny next year is there's going to be 4 automatic bids, qualifiers.
Right.
So you're leaving out one of the Power 5 conference champions. That's not going to get a first round bye.
Yeah.
So then you're going to start arguing. Okay, let's just say for example, South Carolina wins the SEC next year. They're automatically getting a bid in there. So we could lose 4 games next year.
Yeah.
But we're already getting an automatic qualifier. So I think it's going to shake out no matter what, because if you get the 4 or the 5 automatic qualifiers who are the Power 5 champions, because you look at it this year, okay, Alabama won, Georgia has a spot.
Right.
Washington beat Oregon. Oregon would have a spot.
Yeah.
And, Texas beat who did Texas beat? Kansas. Who did they beat in the Big 12? I'm drawing a blank now. But I think it'll just be the Power 5 conference champions and then the runner-ups and then a group of 5.
Yeah.
Which Liberty didn't really help the group of 5 argument this year.
I mean, they played a good game to start with, but yeah, that's tough.
You never know what you're going to get with the group of 5 teams.
You don't. College football has come to an end. We had fun covering it this year. Definitely will be back covering it next year.
Spring starts in 2-3 months.
Yep. But football's still taking place. We haven't talked a lot of NFL throughout the year, but NFL playoffs here, so we're going to cover that for the next few weeks.
I'm going to let you cook. This is your bread and butter.
Yeah. Kyle's more of the college football expert, and I'm more of the
take your shirt off.
NFL. There we go. Dallas Cowboys.
Zed, put a warning over that shirt, so we don't offend people. Boo Cowboys.
NFL playoffs start this Saturday. The San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens both have a first-round bye. Saturday, the Browns 11-6. They're going to travel down to Houston, who's 10-7. This is a 4:30 game. I think this is going to be this will be a good game.
I feel like the Texans always find themselves in like the first playoff game on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And both teams, there's really not much apart from both teams.
Right. I think that when you have Joe Flacco, who's making an amazing run here with the Browns, taking over for them.
Do the Browns have a quarterback controversy?
They might. If Joe Flacco comes in and wins 2 games and gets them to the AFC Championship game.
Deshaun got all that money, then he's decided he didn't want to play football no more. The
Browns are favored in this game. Obviously, it's just an amazing story that the Texans are here because of where they were at last year.
D'Amico Ryan's done a heck of a job.
He should be coach of the year. I think that the Browns' defense they have one of the best, if not the best, defense.
Yeah.
In the National Football League.
Yep.
And you're taking on a rookie quarterback who stellar season.
Yeah.
Rookie of the year, no doubt he should be the rookie of the year. But I think that defense is going to be just a little bit too much for them.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Browns in this one.
Yeah. I think it's really a toss-up. It wouldn't surprise me if the Texans win. But with Flacco having the experience, he's won a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. With Kevin Stefanski.
And people forget that.
Right. I know.
People forget that Joe Flacco has won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. He got hot at the right time in that Super Bowl
And he did it
run.
the same way, and we were just talking about it. He did it with an elite defense.
Yeah. And
the Browns have one, like I said, they have one of the best defenses.
They do.
And Joe Flacco can do just enough to win you those games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Browns.
Yeah, I'm going with the Browns. And then later on Saturday night, the Dolphins and Chiefs. And this is a big game. You got Tyreek Hill going back to Kansas City for the first time.
Yeah.
You got the Chiefs who obviously they're not used to being in this position where they're not the 1 seed and they've got the bye, and things haven't been going well for the Chiefs here of late. They haven't been going well for the Dolphins either. They kind of in the same boat where
the Dolphins are like an enigma. I feel.
The Dolphins came out like they were just shot out of a barrel. Amazing offense, putting up points on points, but they weren't beating. The thing that people kept saying was they were 1-5 against teams over 500 this year.
Yeah.
And so, they finished the season with, 6 losses.
And the last game was a tough loss.
Yeah.
The thing is,
and they're banged up. The Dolphins are kind of banged up on defense.
I feel like the Chiefs are like kind of almost in an identity crisis.
Yeah.
They lost their offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, last year, went to Washington. So you had Matt Nagy come in. They don't really have the weapons like they normally do. Travis Kelce's getting up there. He's 34, which in the grand scheme of things isn't old, but in terms of
tight end, it is.
Sports, especially football, you look at Rob Gronkowski, he retired, 31, 32?
And he retired multiple times.
Yeah, because he came out of retirement to play for the Bucs.
Exactly.
So, I mean, in terms of he's getting up there.
He retired because they were going to trade him to the Lions.
Yeah.
Or no, he threatened retirement because they were going to trade him to the Lions.
And now he probably wouldn't mind that.
Exactly.
So, just for the fact that it's Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day,
they're in Kansas
City. It's Andy Reid.
Taylor Swift's going to be there. They're going to. This game's on Peacock. I think it's the first football game they've shown on Peacock. Maybe.
No.
I think they had a Thanksgiving Day.
They did some college games. It's the first playoff game.
Okay, yeah. So they're gonna use her and they're gonna pump her as many times as they can.
They should just have they have the Pat McAfee
the
on ESPN too.
Broadcast.
They need to have a separate broadcast just to see Taylor Swift.
Yeah, it's just a camera on her the entire time. And people would watch it. The thing is, people would watch that. I bet you it would get over 1 million streams of just of her fans watching her for freaking 2.5 hours and her reactions to things that were happening on the field.
Yeah, they do the Manicast. Like you can still see the game,
right?
But it's just centered on Taylor Swift. People probably watch it.
Just as a business decision, that would be smart.
The NFL's just trying to, I think, kiss up to her to try to get her to perform at one of the Super Bowl halftime shows. But like I was saying, you just don't know what you're getting with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Is Tua an elite quarterback, or is he a good quarterback? Is he a top 10? You don't know.
Yeah, I think truly, the Chiefs have a good enough defense to pressure him, and he's kind of like that Penix style quarterback where he's a lefty, and if you get to him and put enough pressure, he's going to start throwing off his back foot and selling them. So I'm taking the Chiefs in this one just on experience and home field advantage alone.
I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. Yeah, and I think it's going to be pretty chilly there this weekend.
Then we're moving on to Sunday. The Steelers are going to take on the Bills. 10-7 Steelers, 11-6 Bills.
I'm glad the episode messed up yesterday because this wasn't out when we recorded yesterday. TJ Watt's out for the Steelers.
Yep. I figured that whenever they had that injury, they already knew coming out of that game that it was a grade 3 MCL, which is it's pretty tough.
It's a couple weeks.
Yeah.
They said you need a couple weeks.
But you can't put it past those Watt brothers, man. Those dudes are a different breed. I mean, yeah. I mean, J.J. Watt tore his shoulder completely off and still came back and played. So
I mean, arms, I guess, is different. But, I mean, if you can't affect like when your main job is to use your legs to power out at like your stance and pass the lineman, and that's not healthy, you're just going to be a liability for your team.
Right. Yeah.
I like the heart, but if you're not 100% and you can't effectively change the game,
right. And it's not. Here's the thing: the Steelers, unless they went on like a miracle run, they're not going to make the Super Bowl. There's no reason for TJ to go out there and risk further injuring himself, blowing out his knee completely or something like that,
or tearing it.
Yeah. Here's the thing too: is like the Bills, you don't know what you're getting with them either. Yeah. I mean, coming into last week, they were either getting a 2 seed or they were out of the playoffs.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Between tiebreakers and the games they had lost throughout the year to other teams, like it was either 2 seed and home field advantage, or you're just done for the year.
Yeah, and you don't know what Josh Allen you're going to get.
Yeah, and he's going to give you the ball, either from throwing interceptions or fumbling the ball. And I'm not 100% on this, but I think that there wasn't a single game this year he didn't have a turnover. Or even if he had he may have fumbled and not lost the fumble. There's been every single game he's put the ball in harm's way. And that's just the type of quarterback he is. That's how he's played his entire career, because on the flip side, he's going to give you 40 total touchdowns this year. I mean, I think he's the first quarterback in 4 straight seasons in the NFL to have over 40 or more touchdowns between throwing and running. So he's going to give you the ball, and he's going to score on you as well. I think that the Bills just have the better team.
The first game, 3 interceptions. Second game, no interceptions, but he could have had a fumble. I don't know. Washington, interception. Miami, no interception. Then he had 5 straight games with 1 interception, then a 2-game interception, and then 3 straight. Yeah,
I mean, he threw 18 interceptions this year. They played 17 games. That's averaging over one plus interceptions a game.
Yeah, he threw 29 touchdown passes this year, which ties for 5th in the league.
Right.
But he threw 18, which is 114th. I didn't even know I didn't know there was 114.
There's no telling.
Yeah. And then I'm not seeing, it doesn't show stats. Or, excuse me, fumbles, what I'm looking at. So,
he had quite a few of those.
Needless to say, he turns the ball over a lot.
Yes, he does.
And so, it's okay. It's like quarterbacks are going to turn the ball over, especially when you're a quarterback like Josh Allen. But eventually, you have to learn to be smart with the football.
Yeah, he turns it over in a high rate.
And when you turn the ball over.
Right. I'm gonna go with the Bills in this game. Yeah. I think with it being in Buffalo, I don't think weather will be a factor. It's not going to affect the Steelers because they're used to that same type of weather. I just think Mason Rudolph's not good enough to win you playoff games. And without T.J. Watt, he's the heart of that defense.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's going to give you an interception. Bank on it. But I think that he's still going to have enough touchdowns that the Bills win this game.
Yeah.
This is the highest spread of the weekend at -10.
And that's
they're the most favored team.
That's a lot. When you see
in the playoffs,
when you see high, not even high number, but double-digit point spread in the NFL,
right.
That's telling you something. But yeah, I'm going with Buffalo. Like I said, it's they're at home. Mason Rudolph, you know what you're going to get with him.
Right.
The Bills, I'm sure, will hone in on Najee Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Steelers don't really have an effective pass rusher to make a difference. So yeah, I think it's the Bills.
Scariest team I think in the playoffs right now is going to be the Rams. They're taking on the Lions.
I thought you were about to say the Cowboys.
No, the Rams are the scariest team in the playoffs right now to me. They're going to travel to Detroit. This is another,
it's a coming home
emotional storybook game. With Matt Stafford going back to Detroit for the first time. On the flip side, it's Detroit's first playoff game in a long time, first home playoff game in decades. Just a lot of emotions going on in this game. But I think for the Rams being the scariest team in the playoffs, with all this emotion, I think that the Lions have the best coach to help them kind of curve that emotion in Dan Campbell, not let that all the hype around this game affect them.
Yeah.
To me personally, I still think that the Rams, just the way that they're playing, I think that the Rams come out victorious in this one. I think that there's more experience, head coaching wise, more experience with the quarterback. I think that they have probably, in Puka Nacua, they probably have one of the most dynamic players.
And a rookie.
Yeah.
He's
Amon St. Brown, he's dynamic too, but
it's Laporta.
Yeah. The Lions not having Laporta, who is a key piece in their offense, I think that's going to be detrimental to them.
They got hurt in the last game of the season.
And that's tough because they're playing them because obviously if the Cowboys would have lost, the Lions could have jumped up to that 2 seed.
Yeah. They still had a lot to play for. It's tough. And it's football. I mean, it sucks. It really sucks.
Detroit's still favored in this game, -3. But normally when you just see a -2 or -3, that's just home field alone.
It's just a pick 'em.
Yeah. So I'm taking the Rams in this one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. And this might be a hot topic. Not even a hot topic, but a hot point. It's going to be an emotional game because it's, like I said, Stafford's first game back in Detroit.
Yep.
I don't think they should do anything to honor him. Or any curtain call, nothing.
No,
listen,
not in the playoff game.
This is the playoffs.
Yeah,
your enemy number one. This weekend.
I agree. If it's regular season, sure.
Yeah,
don't do it in the playoffs.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Detroit. I really like Dan Campbell. I think he's a great coach. I think Jared Goff has improved a lot under Ben Johnson, who's getting a lot of attention in head coaching positions. I'm gonna go with the Lions. It's just home field,
This is the most intriguing game of the weekend to me. I think it could go either way.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go with the Lions.
Yeah, and then we're gonna jump to Monday real quick. Yesterday we went straight to the Cowboys game. We're gonna say the best for last.
Nobody cares about the Cowboys.
Monday night, 8:15, Eagles Bucks, and this is a game you don't really know. It's in Tampa. The Eagles are favored. The Eagles have lost 5 out of their last 6 games.
Yeah.
And not to say that the Bucs are playing outstanding. They finished the year 9-8. They barely survived beating the Panthers to win the division and get into the playoffs.
That's saying a lot.
You got A.J. Brown. They haven't really said much in terms of what his health is like. He obviously left the game with an injury Sunday. Jalen Hurts either dislocated or, to me, that thing looked broke.
Oof, that thing was going to look like a Booger McFarland finger.
Yeah. So he's going to come in with some type of finger injury, whether it was dislocation, broke, whatever. And we talked about this yesterday, but if it's a pinky, I mean, that's painful enough.
Yeah.
But with where he has to grip the ball, you're putting a lot of pressure right there with that middle finger.
Yeah.
And that's tough. And it's, luckily for them, it's probably not going to be cold to where the weather's going to affect his finger. But just, there's not a lot of time in, a week for that finger to heal up. There's going to be some soreness there.
Yeah.
If he takes any kind of hit to it, falls on it, anything, I mean, that could be detrimental to him.
I would hammer the under in this one. You got the Eagles that have been struggling.
Right.
Like you said, the Bucs didn't even score offensive touchdown against the Panthers, which, I mean, I guess you could say I'm a Panthers fan. And I feel bad because, I mean, their defense is usually pretty good to really good. The offense just can't do anything. I mean, they beat the Panthers 9-0.
Yeah.
No offensive touchdowns. Their offense the past few weeks haven't really done much. But you could say the same thing about the Eagles. Like, I feel like the Eagles are just in a huge identity crisis. They kind of skated by the first, it almost feels like 12 weeks of the season.
Right.
Where, like, they won, but
they
everybody
like
knew they weren't the Eagles of last year.
We kind of rolled through it yesterday, but each game that they played, I think they had one like convincing win.
Yeah.
And it was against the Dolphins early on in the season. But other than that, it was like a touchdown or less win in all of their games, and that was including like an overtime win in Washington. They lost to the Jets. They did beat the Chiefs, but at that time the Chiefs were going through their whole deal of not really knowing who they were. Then they beat the Bills, another overtime game, which they kind of lucked out in that one.
Yeah.
Then they get smashed by the 49ers, which the 49ers also smashed the Cowboys, so that's not, I'm not talking crap there. But I told my cousin, who's a 49ers fan, in that game, I said, look, if y'all go out there and y'all beat the Eagles and you beat them handily, they will fold. This team is there are just too many divas on this team.
Yeah.
Their head coach is the diva of all divas. He talks trash to fans. I mean,
he encapsulates what a Philly person.
He does. He fits their mold, but it's kind of one of those things where when the times are good, he's like that, but when the times are bad, they fold.
Yeah.
And right after that loss, they lost to the 49ers, and they lost to the Cowboys. Then they lost to the Seahawks. They barely beat the Giants by 8 points, lost to the Cardinals, lost to the Giants. So, I mean, in their last 6 games of their one win, it was to the Giants, who then turned around and beat them.
Yeah, so out of Philadelphia's 11 wins this season, only 2 were by more than one possession. Right. Like, I guess you could count an 8-point win as still a 1-point possession game because you can get a 2-point conversion. So, yeah, I mean, everybody knew this team wasn't, elite. But, I mean, they still find a way to win, which at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Yeah. But it seems like it snowballed when they got beat by the 49ers because, like I said, your Cowgirls beat them pretty convincingly the next week.
Yeah, I think that the Eagles probably will find a way to win this game. But it won't surprise me if the Bucs can jump out quick and fast and get a 7-10 point lead and then just kind of stay in that zone.
Yeah.
If they can get pressure on Hurts, like I said, this team, and you've seen it with the Eagles, they fold. Yeah. They are quitters. They just are.
And I felt like, I think I said this earlier, I think they are going through still an identity crisis where, they had to replace their 2 coordinators from last year's run, which I don't think people realize like how important coordinators are.
Exactly.
You have great coordinators. Kind of take it back to college football. Clemson's dominant run with Brent Venables and Jeff Scott and the Virginia coach his name's slipping, Tony Elliott.
Yeah.
I mean, Clemson was elite for those years. And when they left, they're especially on offense, they're still struggling to find their identity. And I guess you could kind of say the same thing for the Eagles, where I think they kind of took for granted those coordinators they had last year.
I agree. I'm
going with the Bucs.
I hope so.
I'm going with the Bucs.
Screw everything Philly.
Baker Mayfield, baby. I'm happy for him. He's having a good year. He's struggled the past couple years after, when he was with Carolina, and then I forgot who he may have gone to Tampa Bay after. But I'm going with the Bucs. It's home field.
I hope so. I just know. I think that the Eagles will find a way to scratch it out. But
it depends if AJ Brown's healthy, which I mean, he really hasn't had that great of a year anyways. No. He's had, and that could go
all that
hand
trash
in hand
all
with their offense and Jalen Hurts not having a good year.
And the thing is like if AJ Brown's banged up, Jalen Hurts is banged up.
DeAndre Swift can only do so much.
And the other guy from Alabama,
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith, he's banged up. He hadn't been really healthy all year.
Yeah.
I think that the Bucs are probably the more healthy team right now, and being home, it might help. So, you know what? Screw it. I'm going with the Bucs.
Do it.
I'm going with the Bucs. Screw Philly. Screw everything Philly.
You're wearing a Cowboy shirt.
And then we're going to bounce back to the game of the week or the game of the weekend. The Cowboys taking on the Packers. Here.
I'll let obnoxious Cowboys fan talk.
Cowboys are favored 7.5. They should win this game. Kudos to the Packers because they obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback. They mutually parted ways.
Yeah.
The Packers have had two Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back who played 18 to 20 seasons for them. Yeah. They replaced them with Jordan Love, and it was they made this pick years ago, and everybody was like, "Why the crap do you trade up for a quarterback when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback?"
Yeah.
And then you kept that Hall of Fame quarterback for another 2 years, and then, like I said, kudos to the Packers because they took Jordan Love this year. They ran with it, made the playoffs.
Yeah, and he got better throughout the year.
He did.
I think he's going to be okay.
I think the Packers are going to be okay. They are the youngest team in the NFL.
Yeah.
They, like I said, they were replacing a Hall of Fame quarterback.
But they also have a great coach, Matt LaFleur. He's kind of like I think any really quarterback you can put in, he can get the best out of in his scheme, just like with Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. I agree.
Could you not say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers to Brett Favre?
Well, I mean, those were already elite before they even. I mean, if we're just talking in terms of Matt LaFleur, I mean, Rodgers was already going to be, I think.
Yeah, but in terms of the Packers moved on from Brett Favre, went to Aaron Rodgers, and that's what everybody's saying. The Packers did it again. They went from.
I think
Brett
it's a little
Favre
early to say that for Jordan Love, at least.
Yeah. But they made the playoffs, and it's kind of hard to tell what you got with the Packers. Like I said, they beat the Lions, then they beat the Chiefs, and then they lose to the Giants, lose to the Bucs, beat the Panthers by 3, and they let the Panthers put 30 on them, which is wild. They beat the Vikings, and then they barely survived the Bears to get into the playoffs. So they're one of those teams. They're young, and I think that's some of it is like they can go out there and they can do really well. They could go out there and just kind of screw around, and so you really don't know what you're getting with them. At the end of the day, Dallas is the better team.
Yeah,
they should win this football game, but Jesus Christ, who knows?
I will say this: based off what we saw in the regular season, as long as Dallas can stay at home in the playoffs, they will win. When they go on the road. Because majority of your losses were on the road.
Every loss.
Oh,
Every loss was on the road. Never lost at home.
When you face good teams on the road, you lost. Games you won on the road were against inferior opponents that you should have won.
Yep.
Like the Panthers.
Yep.
The Commanders. So as long as the Cowboys can stay at home through the playoffs, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Dak is not the MVP.
Dak is the MVP of the NFL. I'm taking the Cowboys to win this game. Like I said, it's home field. I think if they can continue to do what they do, they shouldn't lose this game.
As long as Dak is okay, healthy, and not turning the ball over, which he hasn't done this year like he has in years past, you'll be fine as long as you stay at home.
Well, we say that. Here's the thing: is people got so enamored by last year and what his interceptions last year. Dak has never before last year, him and Patrick Mahomes were the leaders for not turning the ball over throughout their career. Mm-hmm. I mean, throughout his career, he's done what he did this year, around 8 to 9 interceptions. Yeah. He may have a fumble or two, but last year was an anomaly. But people don't want to realize that they don't really want to look at that,
though, right? Because he plays for the Cowboys.
Exactly. If you put a star on your helmet, you get judged so much differently.
But it's like that in every any professional sport. You go to the Yankees, you get critiqued.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah. But here's the thing: is like they're putting.
I have no pity for Dak Prescott. He's fine. Poor.
He's making the money. Because they're America's team. You hold America's team to a higher standard.
What's the last year the Cowboys won the Super Bowl?
1996.
All right. Yes, it is.
Here's the thing. Dak Prescott has played the best quarterback play this season.
You know how...
If you say that the MVP now is pretty much a quarterback award, which it is.
It's going to be Lamar Jackson.
Here's the thing. So, yesterday I had some different stats to show what they had, comparing them to each other. Let me pull it up real quick. I'll send it to Zeb.
While he's looking that up,
pull it up,
you
Zeb.
realize the Panthers made the Super Bowl, have made the
Okay, so Dak versus Lamar, who Lamar's pretty much been crowned the MVP this year. Dak played more games.
Because he's a better quarterback.
No. Dak played more games, had more total yards. That's including passing yards and Lamar's rushing. So even with what Lamar does rushing the ball, Dak outthrew him than what he did throwing and rushing.
Yeah.
More total touchdowns, less turnovers, a higher completion percentage, a higher passer rating, a higher QBR. Okay, so we had all of that. And then this morning, right before we started, I found this one. Lamar Jackson's 2023 season, which they say is an MVP season. 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,678 passing yards, 67.2% completion percentage, 5 rushing touchdowns, 821 rushing yards. Dak Prescott's rookie season, he had 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, more passing yards, a higher completion percentage, more rushing touchdowns in his rookie season. But now when he's having a better season in year 8 or 9, and Lamar Jackson just, won a few games here at the end of the year, he's the MVP. It makes no sense.
You know what, I kind of...
Last year, Jalen Hurts was the best quarterback in the league. He threw 25 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Dak threw 25 touchdowns, 15 interceptions last year. Jalen Hurts comes in this year, does the exact same stat line, and it's not talked about. Last year was Dak is a problem. He's a detriment to the Cowboys. He has a turnover problem. This year, Jalen Hurts does the exact same thing, and it's ghost, quiet. Nobody wants to talk about it. Dak goes out there. He graded out at the quarterback position as the highest graded passer in the National Football League all season long. Lamar Jackson had a few good games at the end of the year. Dak Prescott from game 1 to game 17 was the most consistent quarterback throughout the entire year. He's the most valuable player.
We'll see. I mean, he could win. You never know.
No, he's not going to. He deserves to win, though.
Yeah.
Anybody who looks at it from a non-biased, if you just put the stat lines out there, and you don't say it's just the best player on the best team. I mean, here's the thing: is Dak did all that. He sat out the fourth quarter 7 times. He didn't play 7 quarters of the 17 games that he played. They were winning so big or in a position where he didn't play 7 quarters in games.
Yeah, I think you can.
I mean, he could have easily stat padded in those games and had 40 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, all these different things.
I don't think you can go wrong with picking Dak or Lamar. I mean, honestly,
I would give it to Christian McCaffrey before I gave it to Lamar.
I look at it from the perspective of, okay, if this player was not on the team, where would the team be?
The Cowboys would not be where they're at right now without Dak.
Yeah. You could say
Tyler Huntley got the Ravens to the playoffs last year.
You could say the same thing about
That's how you grade value.
McCaffrey to the Niners.
Yep.
Tyreek
Hill to the Dolphins.
Really, Lamar with the Ravens.
Yep.
I know, what Huntley was quarterback for, and again, I don't know how many games he was the quarterback for last year. I don't follow the NFL as much, but those 3 you can't go wrong.
Here's the thing: is I
get it from your perspective as being a Cowboys fan. But as like somebody who has like no dog in the fight, I wouldn't be upset if Dak won it. I wouldn't be upset if Lamar won it.
Right.
I wouldn't be upset if McCaffrey won it. They're all three of deserving.
Right. Exactly. Sure.
But again,
Dak deserves it the most.
You're looking at it from just a Cowboys fan.
I'm looking at it from a strictly football perspective, the same way they did it with the Heisman. Do we give it to Michael Penix because he was the best player on one of the best teams?
Yeah.
Or do you say, all right, this player, even though they didn't win as many games, he had the best season at the position who we pretty much say this is what the award goes to now.
Yeah.
Outside of an anomaly like Devontae Smith winning wide receiver, they gave it to Jalen Daniels because he had the best season of any player in the league or in college football.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott had the best season of any player in the league.
Yeah.
That is the most valuable player.
I agree with you. But like I said, I don't think, at least from my view, I'm not sure when they stop the voting. I'm not sure if it's based on. I don't think you should count. I don't think you should factor in postseason. And
right.
It should be for 17 games.
Yeah.
It should be the regular season because you look at college. Unfortunately, Jaden Daniels didn't play in his bowl game. But let's just say he won and LSU didn't make it to a bowl game.
Right.
But you knew he was the top player in the league or in college football all season. But, Michael Penix made it to the postseason. Like, that shouldn't penalize.
It should be a regular season award.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because people get hot. Like, look at Joe Flacco when the Ravens won the Super Bowl. He got hot at the right time, and those maybe the last couple games of the season, been fed into the playoffs.
Yep.
And he earned him that big contract. Like I said, it should be a regular season award.
I agree. It should be a regular season award. Dak had the best regular season. They're honestly, not going to give it to him. Here's the thing: is he could have thrown for 40 touchdowns.
Would you rather Dak win the MVP or the Cowboys win the Super Bowl?
Do the Cowboys win the Super Bowl?
Right.
And Dak has said the same thing. Look, I don't. He's already said I don't care. Don't give me any award. They won the division when he did his interview with Aaron Andrews.
All for show. That was all for show. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think. Here's the thing. I truly don't think that he does anything for show. And here's the other thing that I hate that they do is like even if Dak had a terrible year, he's judged so unfairly by the media that no matter what he does, he's never given props for it. He can win Walter Payton Man of the Year. He got booed. He is the only player to get booed walking on the stage for winning Walter Payton Man of the Year, which is what you do in your community and for other people. Well, what he's done for suicide awareness, losing his mom, going through breaking his ankle.
Didn't his brother commit? Didn't he lose somebody to suicide?
His brother committed suicide.
Because I think Skip Bayless gave him a hard time.
Yeah.
Like, geez. Like,
yeah.
That's
what I'm saying. Is like there's never
rough.
any props. No one ever gives him his flowers.
But he plays for the Cowboys.
Exactly.
That's just... I hate to say it, and I'm not saying you are, but there's a lot of these people who call themselves Cowboys fans that are not Cowboys fans.
No.
I'm sorry. They're Cowboys fans because of the logo. That's why.
I've been with them since the beginning, and I could send you a picture of me in my Troy Aikman Cowboys jersey when I was a little tight.
Steven's fandom is like all over the place. He's got a professional team for each part of the country almost, I feel.
No, I don't go past Texas.
Your NBA teams in Boston.
I'm picking the Cowboys to win this game.
Yeah, the Cowboys.
It should be a fun weekend. If you do believe in the NFL being scripted, there's a lot of games this weekend to kind of fit your narrative between the Cowboys taking on the Packers, Mike McCarthy taking on his former team.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, you got Matt Stafford going back to Detroit for the first time in Detroit's first playoff game in a long time. Then you got Tyreek Hill going back to Kansas City. So you got a lot of stories this weekend.
Yeah, you do.
That if you are a script writer, believer, conspiracy theorist, they're feeding your narrative right now.
Yeah, this is when I start really watching the NFL is playoff time.
Yeah, this is the best time. I mean, this is when it's obviously cranked up. So we'll be back next week to recap these NFL games and look forward to the next week. Hopefully the Cowboys don't cowboy and stumble in the playoffs. And
oof, that'll be a fun episode. We might have to.
It'll be fun either way. Either you dogging me or I'm getting hyped up for a run.
We might have to do an instant reaction if the Cowboys lose this weekend.
No, I'll be in the basement that I don't have, which is pretty much the crawl space.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week.
See y'all. Thank you.
We will be covering the NFL playoffs for the entirety of the NFL playoff season. If you want to hear our opinions on the games and either me in sadness or in
joy. Talk about the
Cowboys. Yep. Click the link here.
Or if you want to catch our full episodes talking college sports, any other sports other than the NFL, click here.